Welcome to Chromatic Counsel podcast, where the podcast where law, color, and leadership all collide. I am your host, Kerry Heaps, and I am so glad that you joined us today. I have such an exciting show lined up for you today. And just a quick announcement before we get started. If you are in Florida and you are looking for CLE credit, specifically technology credit, I have our Bodies Don't Lie edition called Digital Tells, reading body language on Zoom and other digital platforms for 1.5 tech credit. Now, if you are in another state that does accept accreditation classes from other states, you are welcome to reach out to me directly, and I will make sure I get all of the timestamp and information to you in order to get accreditation for your state approval. So today on the show, I am really excited because I am joined by Matt Hallisy. He is the founder of My General Counsel on Call. Now, unlike many attorneys, Matt didn't go straight from college to law school. He spent decades in the business world, running teams, managing companies, and even owning his own small businesses. He knows firsthand the challenges that business owners face when they are navigating legal risk and the frustration of high legal fees. Now, that experience inspired him to create a service that gives small business owners reliable, ongoing access to legal expert advice for a predictable monthly retainer. No surprises, just guidance when you need it the most. Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on the show finally.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here as well. Now, you've had a pretty unique path. Obviously, you've been a business owner, you're an MBA investor, then
Mhm.
you became an attorney. How has
Yeah,
that shaped the way that you advise your clients today?
yeah. It's I think part of it is I'm going to contrast it with typical new attorney, right? So you have the 26-year-old attorney finishes college at 22, 3 years of law school, passes the bar, and all of a sudden they have this shiny new bar card at their hand,
Mhm.
and they want to get into business transactional work, and that is the equivalent of me going to Russia and not speaking a word of Russian. They just don't know how to do it. And so for me, since I was 14 years old, my first rhetoric class in high school, I wanted to become an attorney, but I had different, kind of different deviations and detours along the way. Um, but finally, as you know, when I decided, okay, I want to do this is just kind of an unchecked box in my life. Um, it was important. And so all of a sudden, working as an attorney, I was surrounded with other people who are lawyers, and I realized they don't really understand what an attorney or a business owner's life is like.
Mhm.
When you're an employee, you get a paycheck. The company bears the risk. You get the paycheck. It's a lot of predictability. My wife's a school teacher, so that's like the epitome of that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then you have employees, you have rent to pay, not your rent, but like actually the business rent. You have, if it's a physical goods business, you have supplies to build. You have all these different moving parts. You have people that might depend on you if you have employees. And they really don't have a lot of money. But you know what they have less of? Time.
Mhm.
And they really just want to be able to speak to somebody, get a problem solved quickly and easily. And the problem is that the way that attorneys are taught to operate is, somebody calls you up, they look up, they decide, okay, I'm going to give this person a shot. I'll call the attorney up. The attorney basically spends 45 minutes talking to them. And then at the very end of it, they say, I'm going to send you a really long document that you need to sign. And then you need to write me a check for $5,000.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know a business owner that I've ever met in my life that they're amenable to that.
Yeah.
And then what's worse is when they get the invoice or that's billed down, they realize that every single time that you talk to your attorney, they charge you for it.
Yeah.
And so you start to in this model that is out there trains business owners to never want to talk to the attorneys, to look at attorneys as remoras on a shark, right? Just everything they can do to like use you to, basically use you as fodder to pay their bills.
Mhm.
And for me, I just wanted to, when I started my company, I wanted to take time and money just out of the conversation.
Mhm.
I wanted them to have something where they could just call me up. They have a document in the interview. They can upload it to me, email it to me, whatever it is, and you would get an answer back really quickly.
Hmm.
But part of it is when you talk to me, I don't want to be the no guy. I don't want to be the risk management guy.
Hmm.
I want to be able to so I call it Christmas morning. I want to give them ideas that they never thought of before. So it's like Christmas presents waiting for you to open. Doesn't mean they're going to use them, but I want to be a proactive idea guy to help them run their business. So, if they're having problems collecting on overdue bills, let's solve that problem,
Hmm.
right? If you're hiring an employee and it's scary enough to have another human family depend on you, well, let's try to solve that problem. So at least that you have all the ducks taken care of. If you have a bed and breakfast, right?
Hmm.
Let's do some things that most attorneys don't have you do to make you feel better about your property, about your Yelp brand out there. How many stars do you have for people reviews? And making sure that you don't get these 1-star blitzes because somebody was just mad at you for 3 minutes, right?
Hmm.
So for me, I want to speak to them as a business owner,
Hmm.
almost to a point where I'm giving them more business advice than legal advice. But really, the umph of the business advice is really formed with the legal um, tools that we have to help solve that business problem.
And are you finding with business owners, the small business owners, that there's like maybe the top two or top three like legal mistakes that you see them make? Because I'm sure you probably have
Yeah.
with your service that there's like the top three that you can like, here's how we can avoid this.
Yeah, and they're because I did them too. Before I was an attorney, I had, you were told to get an LLC, and this is how I brand my business when I'm out talking to people.
Mhm.
If I would say if you ever say to yourself, "Hey, I need to form an LLC," you need to stop what you're doing and talk to me because you're about to make a massive mistake out here in California. Florida is actually really good for it, but California it's terrible. But one of them, if, for example, this was just my mistake, and it wasn't one that I didn't know otherwise. Before I was an attorney, I formed an LLC. Ironically, it was in Florida.
Mhm.
And so I had to make an operating agreement. And so prior to Chat GPT becoming a thing, you just were looking for templates of like, okay, what can I get for my LLC to at least have something on paper, right?
Right.
And what's funny is I was actually going through it about 2 weeks ago, right? I just
Mhm.
pulled it up, memory lane, and I looked at this and I go, who wrote this? This is garbage. And then I write, oh yeah, that was me. I got it. It's like you get what you pay for. It
Yeah.
was free. So I got exactly what I paid for. And so I went through and I was like, all right, well, yeah, mistake here, mistake here, mistake here. I could add some stuff here. This was poorly written. You don't know what you're talking about. This doesn't even make sense. So I think part of it is like, is they need to solve a problem and they don't have money and they don't have time. And so they're going to do what I did. They're just going to go to Google or Chat GPT and say, give me something that I can put on a document and check off a box and move on. Right.
Mhm.
But it doesn't help them.
Yeah.
Right. And the big thing out here in California is, and this is where Florida's amazing, by the way. Um, Flor- if you have a single member LLC in California, generally it's subject to piercing the corporate veil. So they're just going to treat you like a sole prop,
Mhm.
right? Or at least you're at very much risk of that happening. I'll say
Right.
that because I'm not giving legal advice. So
Yeah.
um, now, so there's a solution that I have that's really unique in my business that I do, and that's not really the essence of the show today. But in Florida, one of the nice things they did is this happened in Florida about 15 years ago,
Mhm.
where the Florida Supreme Court they heard a case because the lower courts pierced the corporate veil on a single member LLC. Well, the
Mhm.
Florida state legislature, within I think a week, rewrote the LLC statute in Florida
Wow.
because they did not want people leaving the state, right?
Mhm.
And they're very responsive to bad court judgments. And so for me, it's like, what can I do? You know, what can I do to help them not think about money, not take them away from their stupid human trick, what they do really well,
Mhm.
plumbing, restaurant, you know, house painting, whatever it is, um, and help them solve their problem, but not have them take themselves away from their business.
Mhm.
And so I thought long and hard about it. And I was like, what can I do? And so I was playing around with the idea that I had, which was, okay, let's charge a flat fee way below market true retainer,
Mhm.
um, where you get a certain amount of hourly availability, use it or lose it, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then if you have a problem, you don't have to go through that long, arduous process of doing jumping through all these hoops just to get an answer to a quick question and then knowing that you're never going to pay me a check with a comment in it. ever, period.
Yeah.
And you actually get to choose how much you pay me every month, which is kind of cool for a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I the problem is the way the attorney structure, the onboarding structure is set up. It makes people go to there. It's like if you remember back in the day with the music piracy problem they had, right? So you would go to Tower Records or Specs down in Florida. That was my favorite one in Miami, um, and it's $18 for a CD. Well, Napster came along and they said here it's free.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to sit here and gouge your clients, then people are going to try to find some black market way to get around it. And so it's not that it's a black market, but they're just going to go to Google and try to do it themselves. And they're just hurting themselves. They're not helping their cause at all. And so for me, I really want to help them avoid that mistake. But part of that is just taking the massive barriers and cognitive dissonance out of the way and just make it really easy. And if you don't, if you want to like not have me for a while, fine. You want to re-sign up 6 months later, great. But I want them to be able to know that the onboarding is very simple, and that
And
if you need
you're
an
just
answer,
in California, correct, for clients?
yeah. To be clear, I only practice in California, mainly because that is the war zone.
Any plans for expanding outside of the state, or do
Yeah,
you think that'll?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Florida's on my list, and I've
Oh,
been looking at that recently. So that's one of the areas. And then I have a couple states where I have family members in, so I'm possibly looking to do that. But the thing is, I don't want to do litigation, so it kind of takes away some of the incentive to be there for family things. But like honestly, if I would do it for family, it's kind of more like will and estate type thing, so drawing up trusts and wills and things like that.
yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, no, for sure. But Florida, absolutely. I mean, I love Florida. One, I used to live there, and if I didn't live in California, I would be down in Dade County. Um, and for those who know, it's Dade County. It's not Miami-Dade. Like that's old school.
Yeah.
Um, but partly it's unbelievably business friendly, and so being able to set up a business there is something that I've looked to do. So
Yeah. And obviously with the attorneys that are listening right now, Matt, that, maybe they want to be seen more as a business partner, not a problem solver. What mindset shifts would you tell them they need to make?
yeah, I would say part of it is attorneys are selfish, like I am. So there's a part of me that is. I mean, we're just gonna be honest about it, right? Like it doesn't attract it attracts people that it's about them. It's hard to get into law school. You brag about getting into law school. You brag about graduating. You brag about passing the bar. You brag about being an attorney. And so it's really about them, right? But I think when you have a client, and it's probably true with any type of client, but it's particularly acute with business owners because you could have, a 63-year-old couple that needs a will drawn. And to be honest, they're going to sit back and they're doing whatever they are in their life. And you get back to them when they need to do it. Right. But when you have a business owner and they have a pressing problem, maybe it's not a real problem in the moment, but in their mind, it is keeping them up at night. It is distracting them from their business. And it's actually causing tangible financial harm to their bottom line. You have to really start not look at it from an attorney, but you really have to understand what they're going through. What is their day like? I mean, as an attorney, unless you're a firm, like a partner in a firm, you don't know what it's like to have another family dependent on you for their livelihood, right? I mean, I can tell you this, running businesses, the amount of numbers and multiple commas that you end up seeing in numbers, it gets kind of intimidating when all of a sudden you're realizing, okay, this was the biggest check that I've ever written in my life. And then 7 months later, you say it again. And then 2 years later, you say it again. And you're like, I can't even comprehend this amount of money, like on a personal level, right? But you're still responsible for it, right? And so part of it is like understanding what is it like going through there. And then like, what can you do from a mindset to really be there for them? And I'll tell you where I really, really learned this is in my prior corporate world. I was a compliance officer for a Fortune 1000 company, really big company. It was a huge startup out here in California. And one of the things that I reported to one of the executives in the company, a C-level executive. And so the one thing that you quickly learn is you think business owners don't have time, executives don't have time at all. And so you have to, when you meet with them, it's in and out. It's Navy SEAL. You got to be in and out have 3, 4 bullet points to get at, and you, because you probably have 3 minutes to talk to them for the most part.
Yeah.
And so with business owners, the same thing. But I want them, part of it, I think of the mindset is, are we doing things that train them to not want to talk to us or to not trust us or not to relate to us? Little something or major things, some are subtle. Or are we doing things that make them, when they hear our voice, when they see our face, when they see an email from us, that they're like, that's the email I want to open.
Yeah.
They see a call, that's the call I want to take.
Yeah.
Well, if you're billing them every 6 minutes, then no, I'm not picking up that phone call. Like, why would I charge, like, why would I sit here and pay to talk to somebody? That's stupid, right? But if I can do things to actually train them, that when they hear my voice, it's like, oh man, something great's going to happen, or this is my magic bean, so to speak.
Yeah.
Then I think that's one of the mindsets you want to have. And unfortunately, in law school and in law firms, they don't do that. It's about billing. It's about covering your butt. It's about making sure that the state bar doesn't know your name, well, any more than they should.
Yeah, right. I know. What's your best advice for the attorneys that are tuning in, that they're trying to kind of like find their niche and really stand out in a crowded market? Because you've obviously done that. You have your niche, and you're, and you've got, well, I'll let you kind of take it from there. But what would be your best advice for those attorneys that are tuning in going, I'm still struggling with what my niche should be and how I can stand out and how people are going to know?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say that if they're asking that question, the word that I latched onto was the word should.
Hmm.
And that's one of my old mentors, he said there's certain words that are poverty words: if, need, should, have to, can't, things like that. And so just eliminating that out of your vocabulary is kind of a good first step. But part of it is like, what are you good at? Like, what's something that if you hit the lottery tomorrow, Mega Millions, you're financially stable for the rest of your life, and you just do it to do it, right?
Yeah.
What would you do if you weren't getting paid for it? And I think that's one of them. But then part of it is, and I was very intentional about this coming when I became a lawyer, was I didn't want to hit the ground and learn. I wanted to hit the ground sprinting, right? I wanted to have something that when I got out there, look, I might be a new attorney when I became an attorney, but I'll tell you this, I know a whole lot of stuff, and I can pick up the stuff that I need to learn here, but there's a whole lot of things, whether it's technical or practical, that I know. I know the mindset of business owners. I know how they operate. I know the problems they have. I know what's helped me. I know the mentors that I've had that have been very helpful. I know people that when they wanted to be my mentor or prospective mentors, that I didn't want anything to do with them. But I would say pick something you're good at. I have a corporate legal background, so for me, that was easy, right? I know how to speak to business owners. I know the problems. I know what large companies do to solve their problems that small business owners have never heard of doing. But I think it might be something else. Maybe you have a passion for criminal defense, right? Then do that. Because guess what? When you have a tough day and you haven't slept more than 4 hours, what's going to get you out of bed and excited and sprinting into work, right? And that is really where you're at. If you're doing it for money or to pay your student loans, like that's going to run out at some point. You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
But I would say that really do something, and I would say even if you're not an attorney, do something that you love doing. For me, one of the things that I had was I had one of my business I had was a sales training business, because I used to be in sales back in the day. But it was very anti-sales. I hate sales trainers. They're boring. They're terrible people. Like, I can go on a rant on that forever. But it was very much the antithesis of it. It's like I had something where when I did it, I actually had people calling me instead of me calling them, right? And there's a dynamic that you can set up to do that. And so for me, it was like my target market at the time were millennials at the time. And they were just, they you go to high school, they pay your cell phone bill, you get out of college, you major in something that has nothing to do with anything, right? My dad was a history major, God bless him, but that's a waste of money nowadays. And then you think that everybody's going to hire you because you have a college degree, and then you're working at Starbucks or you're selling insurance. Those are going to be one of the two things you do. And so for me, it was like I knew the problem that was in the mindset in that group,
Mhm.
right? And so I knew I had a solution for that. And
Yeah.
so that's where I went. I went where I was good. Like if I play a sport, I'm going to play a sport that I know a little bit about, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going to play a sport that I've never played before because I'm not going to be good at it and I'm not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I would just say that like go to where you want to go if you weren't being paid. Um, and part of it is like, and if you don't know a lot about it, but you may have an interest in it, I would say the easy thing is go on LinkedIn and invite people to lunch.
Mhm.
Take them out to lunch.
Yeah.
And I have an advertising background, so it's the idea of a focus group, right?
Mhm.
Find out what is it like owning a business? What are their strengths? What do they hate about attorneys? What are the things on there? And you're going to find that probably 7 to 10 of the 10 answers that you get on a particular topic are going to be generally the same.
Mhm.
And then even if you don't have any experience, you're going to have a window into the solution. And most people are so wrapped, especially attorneys, we're so wrapped up in ourselves that we never think about that. So you're generally probably going to be the first person to come up with that idea. And if
Mhm.
not, you're probably going to be one of the only people doing it, which is going to make you probably more in demand than you would be otherwise. And that was my experience opening up my company.
Mhm. And if I switch gears for a minute and talk about clients, like potential clients, so what is one industry trend right now that businesses really need to pay more attention to? If you could name one.
Yeah, so I would say AI, but not in the way that people think. So typically people think AI in the sense of they're gonna, it's gonna eliminate eliminate jobs and that might be the case for some things.
Mhm.
But I think part of it, I would say, is dependency on AI. I'm just plugging my computer in real quick.
Mhm.
Um, there we go. Um,
Speaking of AI, right?
yeah,
Technology, yeah.
yeah. So I think part of it is um, a business owner might go on ChatGPT and say, okay, write me an operating agreement for an LLC in California. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, that's great, and it might do that, and it might do actually. I hate to say this, but it'll probably do a better job than 60% of the attorneys out there. But the problem is, it's not meant to for you. It should be it like that operating agreement
Mhm.
should be custom. Like if it's your birthday, it should be your favorite cake, the best ingredients.
Mhm.
Like it should be absolutely something that you just love, and not just ordering McDonald's in a drive. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what AI can be. But I will tell you this: what I found out, what they definitely have to understand, is there's a term in AI there. It's called a hallucination. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it before, but
Mhm.
AI basically scrapes the internet and has all this stuff. But if it can't find it, unfortunately, it makes things up. It literally just makes things up. And so I had a friend of mine that was doing research on. They were given an assignment, this novel issue. We don't know the answer to this, and kind of what how the court would be likely to rule on this. And so they went in and they looked at it and they said, and they just couldn't find any research. So they were on
Mhm.
Westlaw or Nexus or whatever,
Mhm.
LexisNexis or whatever, and they couldn't find anything. So they went into AI and they said, hey, could you give me the three most authoritative cases on this topic in California? And it said, sure. And it just rattled off three pin sites, right?
Mhm.
Well, the pin sites pointed to other cases, had nothing to do with it. The names were different. The topic was different. It was entirely different. And so what happens is people will use it as a crutch and not a tool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so there's been people, unfortunately, that have gotten bar discipline because they've just had AI write their motions and they submit it to the court. And
Mhm.
if you want to have your bar card taken away, that's the fastest way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I
But
will
what
tell you, I hear a lot of attorneys that talk about AI in that respect. Like, oh, people are using AI and pro se litigants are using it, and
right,
which I can see. And it's interesting that you brought that up about the document because I actually did this morning. I uploaded a contract that I signed with a different company, and I said, I asked it a couple of specific questions and I said, I really just want to know, can you, review this? And based on the Florida statutes, where do I stand? And it spit back everything, saying, oh, well, unfortunately, this, and this. And I said, well, you read through it, but I said, we complied with everything. And it's like, oh, well, that changes the dynamics then, and then it spits out everything else. So I think
right.
it's like you said, you got to use it as a tool. You can't take what it says as gospel per se.
Yeah, and I'll give an example. And sometimes, like, you kind of have to be a little confrontational with it.
Mhm.
So I was looking at a California evidence code. There were two different evidence codes out here in California that have to do with marital spouse privilege,
Mhm.
right? And there are little ones like keeps you from being called to the stand, and then one keeps you if you're called to the stand testifying to a certain area.
Mhm.
And they pointed to it, and they said one of them was, gosh, what was it? It was like I forget what it was, but it had nothing to do with that. It was like I forget. And I said, no, this evidence code has to do with spousal privilege. And the response was, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you're totally right. So like you have to be there
Right. It
and
apologizes. Yeah.
yeah, so you have one of it is you have to do it. So it's a garbage in, garbage out. So I think part of it is like you have to be you can't like I think what you did was good, but I think even more when you direct it, it's important. So like what
Mhm.
I'll do is I use it mainly for a writing tool. So I'll just say rephrase this for clarity, right?
Yeah.
And I just hate the way I wrote it, but rephrase it for clarity, right? But then part of it you can add things is in the context of the target market is it's a legal pleading
Yeah.
in this area of law. The tone should be this, right? And as you do that, it starts to really, really get better on it, right?
Mhm.
Um, so in that respect, I would say they concerned about that. The other part is what people don't realize, and honestly, it hasn't even been publicized enough, is that it's artificial intelligence and it'll use whatever information you have on there. But then also it uses whatever you plug in and it goes into the AI universe. So
Mhm.
if you were to not you per se, but if somebody watching this said, okay, I'm going to take my contract, right?
Mhm.
Or it could be a defamation pleading or like that. Don't ever do it to this, but and say, hey, could you check this for clarity? It's going to have names, accusations,
Mhm.
and that's going to go into there, and it might end up in somebody else's answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
So
point.
you really one of the other thing is you have to take out all names and personally identifying information.
Mhm.
So I have it as Mr. A or Mr. X whenever I do
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
understand that it's one, it's a tool, but two, it's crowdsourcing answers in a sense, right?
Mhm.
It's scraping web pages, but it's also crowdsourcing your information.
Yeah.
And so it might pop up in somebody else's answer. And that's a big problem for attorney-client confidentiality. Like
Mhm.
if it's about the other person, maybe, maybe not, but it also could be a defamation claim because the question is you're publicizing this information to somebody else and it gets communicated to a third party, maybe not directly,
Mhm.
but that area of defamation law hasn't even been tested yet. But the idea is that it's almost like I tell you that somebody else did something and then you tell your friend, well, I'm
It's
still
almost like
liable.
telling the whole, yeah, you're not just telling one person, it's like you're telling the whole AI universe without realizing it.
Correct. And
Yeah.
here's the thing: if you guys, the Alex Jones trial, when he got that $1 billion judgment, the
Mhm.
reason the number was so high was because Texas has a stat. I think it was Texas has the statute where every impression is considered a separate defamation statement, defamatory
Oh,
statement.
wow.
And
Mhm.
so every time somebody retweeted his post or shared a website, every
Mhm.
single impression was considered a separate defamatory statement. And so there was a judgment, an amount for every single impression. And so you really just don't want to be the
Mhm.
person to, when they find out that you're putting somebody else's information in there. So
Mhm.
just be very careful with it.
Oh, yeah. I think attorney, non-attorney, everybody should be careful
Anything.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
I think it's a great tool. Like for
mhm.
me, like I used to use thesource.com before AI.
Mhm.
And I'd say, and it would give all the different things on here. But now I'll just say, give me 50 synonyms for or other ways to say this in the context of to this audience, in this tone, in
Mhm.
this document, and then it can do it. And then the great thing I would say is this: is if you don't like them, just hit more, type in more, and it'll do it again.
Yeah. Cool. Now, obviously, since the show's called Chromatic Counsel, as you well know, when
Yeah,
you're in attorney mode and you're like you got to go
yeah.
to court or mediation, whatever, do you have any go-to colors or outfits that you wear that are kind of like, hey, this is my lucky suit or anything like that?
Yeah, so I will say this: women have an advantage on this because I mean I think it's just it's encouraged, to have
Mhm.
a lot of different styles and colors. Guys, I think we're limited to a couple things, but for me, I would say um, there's for shirts, I just walk through a little bit of like wardrobe for shirts. I
Hmm.
think having like a really like very high thread count shirt is important because the right people that you want to notice it will notice it.
Hmm.
The people that you probably don't want to notice it probably won't. But this one I like just because it's not a power. Like I would say this, if you're speaking to a group of people, you want to really tailor. If you're a man, I can't speak to women, but as a man, you want to tailor everything that you're doing color wise. I have an advertising background, so everything that you do, the ad, the color, the ad, the texture, all the things you do play in on our subtle plays and create a presumption in somebody's mind. And you really want to design that presumption.
Hmm.
And so if you're going to, I'll give you an example. If you're going to go meet with a C level, do not wear this shirt. This is the wrong color shirt. You're meeting with like Fortune 500 company executives, right? So you're going to wear something that is just very base colors. So if you look, there's four base colors: cyan. I forget the exact numbers. There's like a blue, a purple, a yellow, and a red, right? And so you want to wear something that's more base, so like a blue or a white or something. And
Hmm.
then the tie, you would want to have something that's a lot stronger, like a red,
Hmm.
um, maybe something with texture on it, right? But I'll give you an example. So but we're at that. I don't. That's not my target market.
Hmm.
So for me, my target market, I'm out here in California. The only time to wear a tie is at a funeral or a wedding, and that's not even 100% a guarantee,
Right.
right? So part of it is I'll look and say, who's my target audience? If I know it's majority female target audience, I'm going to wear a light, more floral color.
Hmm.
If I wear a tie, it's going to be something that is has a lot of different colors in it.
Hmm.
Um, the shoes you wear are really important. Nobody talks about your shoes, but I actually way back in the day I was interviewing to work at the Secret Service,
Oh.
and one of the guys that was there, he was talking about it. I asked him, I'm like, how do you identify threats in a crowd, right? If you're protecting a senator or a president, and he
Hmm.
said the shoes. He would look at their shoes.
Hmm.
And then I worked in a bank, and we had an FBI guy come in, and we were talking about how to identify bank robbers before they actually show up and do the thing, right?
Hmm.
And and he said, yeah, well, there's a number of different things, but one of the things he mentioned was shoes,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if a guy comes in flip flops, he's probably not going to rob the bank because you're not going to be running away from the cops in flip flops, right?
Exactly.
The guy has $400 shoes, he's probably not going to be robbing the bank because he doesn't need money, right?
Hmm.
So I would say part of it is like look at the shoes you have. There's going to be shoes that really are really expensive. They look amazing.
Hmm.
But if you're going to go meet with somebody who has a taco shop, you're really sending the wrong message. You're really instituting class warfare, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So you can have shoes that are a little more approachable, relatable, that type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, they're like out here. If I'm meeting with and I know that the setting is casual, I'm not going to wear trousers. I'm going to wear
Hmm.
jeans. I want to wear a certain type of shoes.
Hmm.
But I will definitely pick the things that I'm wearing, and the tie is really important.
Yeah.
So if you go to a job interview, they always tell you to wear a blue tie or a red tie.
Hmm.
But if you're meeting with somebody and where you work isn't like California and you're wearing a tie, you want to have things where you're really kind of working on the emotions of it. So if you
Hmm.
have ties at home, this is actually an amazing thing you can do with ChatGPT. Is you can take a picture of your tie
Hmm.
and say which one of these is the best tie to wear to this event and describe your event, and it'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great thing to use it for too, is just with wardrobe. So yeah.
Yeah, but colors are really important. If you look at like logos, for
Hmm.
example, logos that are green, if you have like a company that's trying to be eco-friendly, they generally will have a green logo.
Hmm.
Ironically, BP, the gas company, their logo's green, and I really think part of that is they're trying to have people look at them as an economically friendly organization. They're a
Hmm.
petroleum company, right?
Right.
When you look at companies that are trying to pop, they're going to put red or purple or a different color on there. And so
Hmm.
for mine, if I, on mine, I was very intentional. I took about 3 weeks to figure out the
Hmm.
exact colors for my logo. And
Hmm.
so one of the things, and I did use ChatGPT a little bit just to give me some starting guidance. But I wanted on the logo, I wanted a black logo because that generally people that have black logos, those are the glamour brands, right?
Hmm.
Jewelry companies, like really, really exclusive brands have that. But
Hmm.
then I was trying to find the exact hex code for a shimmering gold.
Hmm.
because that against the black was one of these that really communicated exclusivity,
Yeah.
right, and all that type of a thing. So I wanted them to not say, okay, it's another attorney or whatever, but then I could spend all the copy and all the words that I have are designed to do the exact opposite.
Hmm.
It's about ease, affordability,
Yeah.
relatability, that type of thing.
And
And so I would say when it comes to, and that's why I love being on the on your show, is that like the little decisions you make are going to make a big difference. You might have a tie clip as a man, right?
mhm,
You got to be very careful tie clips you pick.
yeah,
So
that could
I
be a
have a friend
whole
of mine.
nother conversation. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine that has socks, and he's bald, right? He has
Mhm,
socks, and the socks have his face knitted in as the design.
mhm,
Well, if you're walking into a business meeting with somebody and you want to be taken extremely seriously, I would highly advise against that.
yeah. Same here.
But
And yeah, no, and I do. I want to thank you, Matt, for being on the show today and sharing everything that you shared. It just has been amazing talking with you. Like I said, I want to have you on the show again so we can talk a little bit
yeah,
more about, just general counsel and what you're doing, and, also too about colors as well. So yeah, I want to
yeah,
thank you for being on the show. It's been
yeah. Thanks,
amazing
Gary. That's
talking to
awesome.
you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love your show.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope what Matt shared with you resonates with you. If it does, click the like button down in the show notes below. We have a link in the show notes so you can go directly to his site and get in touch with him and learn more about him. And that is a wrap for this episode of Chromatic Counsel. And I will see you all next time.